Hey, welcome back to Real Takes, where we are all movie love all the time. I'm Stott, and tonight we are continuing our fall theme of celebrating new releases by looking at related older works that I love and want people to see. So this week, a film called Bergman Island is coming out. It's a French movie written and directed by Mia Hansen-Løve. It's starring Vicky Krieps, who you might remember from her stunning performance a few years ago in Phantom Thread opposite Daniel Day-Lewis. And it also stars Tim Roth, and they play a couple who are both writers, and they go on a retreat on Faroe Island, which is the island where Ingmar Bergman wrote many of his films. And I don't know that much more about it because I haven't seen it, but I'm looking forward to seeing it because it's written by Mia Hansen-Løve. This is her 7th film, and tonight we are going to talk about her 2016 film, which in the US was titled Things to Come. In France, it was just titled L'Avenir, or The Future. And Things to Come stars the one and only Isabelle Huppert, who we'll get to later, and André Marcon, and also Roma Kalinka. Now, Things to Come is about Natalie, who's a 60-something philosophy professor, married to a philosophy professor, with children and a sort of prescribed, stable-seeming life. And in the course of the film, several changes happen that are completely out of her control, and we watch her weather these changes that I'm not going to get into the specifics of because we are no spoilers and no plot recaps here at Real Takes. What's really important about Things to Come is that there's a lot of tension happening in this film. The things that in some other film might be handled incredibly emotionally or overly dramatically are handled in a very understated, spare way. And yet there's a lot of like motion happening in the film all the time. Even though it's a quiet movie, there's a sense of pace and movement constantly happening throughout the film that's really compelling. There's philosophy happening, and there's a tension between this sense of kind of intellectual control and understand of the world versus the reality of, you know, life, which we ultimately can't control. There's a sense of tension between, you know, the more politically engaged anarchist philosophers of the film and the kind of more intellectual philosophers who are exploring ideas but maybe not implementing them in their lives or choose to implement them differently. There's a mind-body tension happening in the film around, you know, the world of the mind and then the world of the body and nature. So there's just a lot of different ideas coming up against each other. And there's also a mother-daughter tension in this film. So Natalie's mother is an actress or a model, and she's kind of emotionally unhinged. It's not clear whether she has a mental illness or she's just really needy and manipulative, but she's kind of all emotion, and Natalie is all mind. And so there's that tension happening, which is particularly interesting because Mia Hansen-Løve, who wrote and directed the film, her parents are both philosophy professors. So clearly this was a very personal subject to her. And her mother actually helped her with the script because although she grew up hearing a lot of philosophy around her all the time, and she remembered particular philosophers and sort of ideas, she needed quotes. And so her mother helped her with the script because we actually are in philosophy class with Natalie sometimes, and she's talking about philosophers. So her mother helped her with the script, and her mother, you know, didn't ask her to change anything about the script that might have been personal, except there's a cat in the movie, and her mother asked to have the name of the cat changed to protect its identity. So it's a really French film, and I don't want to suggest that there's one way to be French. Obviously, there isn't one way to be French, but when I watch this film, I feel like I'm spending time with friends of mine who are French. Like, I feel like the relationships to emotions, the how the emotions are felt and expressed, our distance from those emotions as people watching the film, like, all feels very French to me. The world of the mind being so so forward in the film feels very French to me, or the kind of France that I've experienced. And all of that leads us to the one and only Isabelle Huppert. Now, if you're not familiar with Isabelle Huppert, she is sometimes referred to as the Meryl Streep of France, which is a sloppy, easy way to give you a sense of the level of respect people have for her craft as an actress, and you know, the sort of place she holds in the film and theater world in France. But it doesn't really give you a sense of Isabelle Huppert. She's a very different actress than Meryl Streep, for starters, and has made very different projects, partially because she's a French actress and very different movies are being made in France than are being made in America. Isabelle Huppert was in her first movie in 1971, which is now, am I right, 50 years ago? Am I doing my math right? Yes, 50 years ago. She's been in over 146 pictures. And I can't tell you how unusual that is for a lead actor. Like, character actors who are often in supporting roles rack up into the hundreds in their credits when they're very successful. But for someone who is a lead actor, to have been in 146 films is just kind of mind-boggling. And her career is defined by the fact that she has been willing to take on really daring, risky, adventurous material, and particularly sexually adventurous material. She was in a Michael Haneke film called The Piano Teacher that is devastating. I mean, it's one of the most amazing movies I've ever seen. I don't know if I can ever bring myself to watch it again. It was so heartrending. And even the year this came out, so this came out in 2016, and she was also that year in a Paul Verhoeven film called Elle, where she plays a rape victim who takes a very unconventional approach to dealing with the fact that she was raped. So she's just pushed outside any kind of bounds around her choices in film. And she's worked with dozens of important French filmmakers. She's also made some American films. She worked with Otto Preminger in the 70s. She worked on Michael Cimini's Heaven's Gate in the 70s. She was also in David O. Russell's I Heart Huckabees. So, I mean, the breadth and depth of her body of work is hard to even wrap your mind around. But you can never go wrong with an Isabelle Huppert picture. In one interview I read with her, she said, "I am an actress from the tip of my hair to the tips of my toes." And she also knows that she's a very French actress. In another interview, she said that when she watches American performances, I'm paraphrasing now, she says she can have a lot of respect for them, but sometimes she thinks they're missing something, a point. And then she says they're missing daring to be nothing, which makes it sound like Isabelle Huppert doesn't do anything when she's on screen. And I mean, there's a whole debate with Isabelle Huppert lovers, like, is she the Ice Queen or is she on fire? There is reserve, and there is a lot happening underneath that reserve. So if you haven't seen an Isabelle Huppert film, this is a lovely one to start with. It's a beautiful, rich performance. It's not, you know, it's not in the like sexually adventurous, daring category that she can be in sometimes. But it's a very deep, beautiful, performance of this woman at a particular moment in her life. And Mia Hansen-Løve wrote the part with Isabelle Huppert in mind. She said she had never done that before with a movie, but she didn't see anyone else playing the part, and she actually said to her producers, if we can't get Isabelle Huppert, we're not making the movie, which is interesting. And it was sweet. In one interview with the two of them, it came out that Mia Hansen-Løve was briefly an actor, and she played Isabelle Huppert's daughter in an Olivier Assayas film about 15, 20 years ago. And then Isabelle Huppert said, you know, so I played her mother then, and now with this, she basically played my mother because she was the director. So this is a beautiful film about a kind of character we certainly don't see on camera almost ever in the United States, but even in French film, this kind of story with this sort of woman is pretty unusual, and it's beautifully told, and I hope you like it. Please go watch it, and I will see you next Wednesday. Thanks for watching Real Takes. Hit the subscribe button below so the algorithms will tell you when new episodes are out. And if you want to support Real Takes, please visit my Patreon page where you can join at any tier from $2 to $100 per thing I make. The $15 tier is specifically about supporting Real Takes, and you'll get behind the scenes information and be thanked in future videos. See you next Wednesday.